Boo! Jump scare! You pissed your pants there? I bet you did. And I bet more surprising than that jump scare was me returning to YouTube. Well, let's quit wasting time on that and talk about why you're here, the title of the video. Yes, I know, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but acceptance will set you free. And I've accepted that Shadow of the Erdtree is an unfinished DLC. I mean, with areas more empty than my bank account and lore implications and reveals more dry than the feelings I got when I'm gifted clothes as a kid for Christmas, like, what else am I to think, you know? Now, for some context, I'm a big FromSoft fan. I've played like all their mainstream games aside from Dark Souls 2, so suffice to say, I've been looking forward to this expansion a lot. Now, before you FromSoft sexuals point your pitchforks at me, I just want to explain that this DLC was amazing. In fact, given its price point, it's better than most AAA games out on the market today. But that doesn't mean it didn't come without its shortcomings. So in this video, I want to go over exactly what I loved about the DLC, but also where I found it kind of fell short. Now first, I'm going to start off by talking about the things I really loved in the DLC, so if you just care about me complaining, go ahead and skip to this part of the video. Now I'm just going to be blunt here, I don't think that Shadow of the Erdtree was able to stack up to the greatness of some of the other DLCs that FromSoft was able to produce, namely the Ring City from Dark Souls 3 or the Old Hunters from Bloodborne. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Shadow of the Erdtree doesn't have any merits of its own, because I feel like the place that FromSoft really excelled at in this DLC was the environmental design. I mean, it kind of already went without saying that FromSoft's art direction was at the top of its class, but in this DLC, I don't know how they did it, but they took things to the next level. Aside from the environments, I also really loved all the weapons and weapon classes that you can find throughout the DLC. I feel like they rejuvenated a lot of the gameplay and made experimenting with builds much more interesting. Now you can't talk about a Souls game without mentioning the main attraction, which are the bosses, and I'm happy to say that most of them were pretty good to amazing. Now obviously I can't do them justice here because I feel like each of them kind of deserves a video of their own, but my god man, like the quality of the bosses in this DLC were fucking amazing. Now I just can't make this video without mentioning any of them, so I'm gonna go through my 3 favorite ones. Firstly, we have the Dancing Lion, whose whole fight felt like an actual dance, and I know a lot of bosses feel the same way, but this one especially, with the tempo, the music matching the different phases that the boss goes through, is just so good, man. And the violin slash cello solo at the beginning of the first phase, that guy fucking snapped, bro. Some of the best shit to grease my ears. There's just so much to gush over on the music alone for this fight. Like, I'm gonna show you the phases now. Look at the lightning phase, how immediately as soon as it starts, the drums start picking up, echoing the thunder, with the flutes becoming more rapid and frequent, representing the lightning. Just take a listen. Now you'll notice as we start entering the wind phase, all the percussion instruments start taking a step back, giving the opportunity for the string instruments to shine for a bit, with all the flutes in the background swaying from side to side as if they're being controlled by the wind. Now the ice phase is the most obvious one, where the instruments are all giving the choir the front stage. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I really fucking love this boss. Can't stand here talking about it all day though, so on to the next one. Consort Redon. Now I'm aware this pick may seem a little bit more controversial, but this boss honestly delivered on everything I wanted. Yeah, it had 1 or 2 moves that were honestly kind of bullshit, but in every other aspect, this boss delivered. I wanted a boss that would kick my ass so hard that I wouldn't be able to know if I'd actually win or not. And that's exactly what I got out of Redon. Honestly, the most disappointing thing about him wasn't even part of his fight, it was the aftermath, where we got the whole thing with Mikola, which I will get to soon, but yeah. Now, I don't want to become a music analyst here, trust me, I am not that guy, but I just gotta talk about Redon's music. It's so good, man. Genuinely one of the best themes I've ever heard. Not only is it so heroic, final, and uplifting, but also it's such a good juxtaposition to Redon's original theme. And I don't mean this in some deep philosophical way. I'm sure everybody knows that Starscream Redon's theme sounds more mournful and sad than console Redon, but FromSoft has gone out of their way to make this pretty literal. Like, if you hear Redon's theme, both of them, the lead up to the chorus sounds nearly exactly the same. Take a look. Yeah, I think y'all get the point. Now on to my favorite boss, which shouldn't really come as a surprise at this point, Baal the Dread. And I promise, no more music stuff this time, because while yes, Baal's music is amazing, that's not what makes the fight so good. It's all the lead up to it. From meeting Igon for the first time, that gives us a sense of what we're in for.
Oh, terror incarnate!
To the anticipation and tension that's built by scaling the jagged peak, knowing exactly where your destination is leading, to the cathartic and cinematic showdown of the fight itself. There is just nothing quite like it. Everything about this fight was perfect. But alas, all good things must come to an end. So now we must address the title of the video. So why do I think Shadow of the Erdtree was left unfinished? Well, it has to do with my biggest criticism for the DLC, which is how FromSoft managed to balance out the quality to quantity ratio of what's available in the DLC. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the map from the base game. Looking at the map from a surface level, it seems pretty big, but nothing mind-blowing, right? But you never truly grasp just how expansive it really is until you see how well FromSoft integrates verticality into it. After you understand that, you get a better sense of the amount of content available to you, but are yet again thrown for a loop when you unlock the underground maps. At which point, the game feels like it could go on forever. But what creates this sense of anticipation and excitement is that you know that with each corner of the world you unlock, more surprises and new things will become readily available for you to experience. In short, in most cases, the sizes of the areas you unlock in the base game is proportional to the amount of content in it. But that's not really the case with the DLC. You see, even the most visually scale-deceiving area in the game, the consecrated snowfields, is full of content that, while I will admit isn't proportional to its size, there's still content, you know, like there's 7 bosses, 4 dungeons, a quest storyline conclusion, and numerous other points of interest such as Ordina that leads to the Halic tree itself. This is all set as a precedent of what to expect going into the DLC. But this is where FromSoft dropped the ball hard. Now the DLC also does verticality well in terms of its level design, but ask yourself how it's actually used. Like, going through these areas was exciting at the start, but the more and more you explore the DLC, the more you realize just how empty it really is. The 2 finger ruins that take up a large portion of the map? What's there? Walking dicks with wands, a talisman, and that's literally it. Like, you're telling me that these 2 whole areas are dedicated to blowing Matir's mating whistle. Like, there could have been a dungeon, a boss, literally anything. Then there's the Jagged Peak. Hope you like fighting Ryu's dragons for the 1,000th time. See what I mean? Like, the map seems so big at first, but after taking out all the emptiness, you're left with something that is just mostly style with little substance. By far the biggest offender of this is the Abyssal Woods. This whole area is honestly what convinced me to make this video in the first place, because in terms of its visual appeal and atmosphere, it's easily one of my favorite locations in any game ever. Nothing beats the feeling of finding a secret room behind a waterfall in a guarded fortress that has an invisible wall leading to a random coffin that transports you to a whole new area that leads you downward to a hidden dungeon with a unique boss that then gives you access to the area in question. Classic FromSoft, right? But what ensues, not classic FromSoft. This whole area, everything we got here, what do we have? What do we have? Let's count it. We got rats, 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 we got rats, rats, a bigger rat, rats, rats, a guy who wants to fist you, rats, 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 pain and suffering, rats, rats, and, did I mention, rats? I refuse to believe this was the intended experience that FromSoft wanted the players to enjoy. What supports that point even more is not being able to use torrent. Don't get me wrong, it was insanely cool for the first time, but not when there's literally nothing interesting in the area besides a couple winter lanterns and Midra's mansion. There were so many times where I just wanted to use torrent and breeze past these areas because, well, there's nothing. The winter lanterns themselves, although very cool, are not enough. They're just not enough to carry this whole entire area. I did love how FromSoft forced you to interact with one of the main mechanics of Elden Ring, which was seldom used, the stealth. But that's just not enough, man. It's just not enough to justify creating this whole big chunk of area. All of that leads me to believe that FromSoft intended for there to be more things to interact with on foot, but simply ran out of time. Speaking of Midra, if you were wondering why he wasn't even in my top 3 bosses, it always just felt like something was missing for the build-up to his fight. From entering the mansion, seeing his portrait, meeting a dead Nanaya to the final confrontation, it all just felt disjointed and rushed, and I feel like what could have brought it all together was a simple NPC questline. This all suggests one thing to me. Shadow of the Erdtree is unfinished. And I guess that's a pretty good segue to talk about the lore because, oh boy. Now look, I'm just gonna be upfront here. I ain't nobody, okay? I'm not a lore expert, so I could very well be in the wrong here. But did anybody else feel like everything just felt super anticlimactic? And I'm not talking about the obvious ending with Miquella, which was pointless by the way, because the same info we got from that cutscene is present in Redon's armor, but whatever, that's besides the point. I'm talking about everything else surrounding our expectations going into the DLC. Like, did we get any real answers? Like, sure, Mohg's been crossed off as Dr. Disrespect's successor, we got a good look at Saint Trina, the Greater Will when to go buy milk, we learned who ratioed Placidus Axe, we got some development about America's past, implications about the Crucible's origins being from the Land of Shadow, what Millennia whispered into Redon's ear, etc. Like, don't get me wrong, these are great answers, but most are not the answers we wanted to know the most. Like, you'd think that a DLC centered around Miquella, we get some actual answers about Miquella, right? But throughout the DLC, we have no direct involvement with him at all. Meaning he's still the same enigmatic figure as before, just with a few extra layers now, that honestly convoluted everything more than provide any real closure. So for example, what the fuck is up with him and Torrent? Like, hello? We got nothing about that. When that image circulated before the DLC released, it became pretty obvious that he was his former master, right? But that just doesn't make any sense anymore, because in the DLC we learned that Miquella's path to godhood coincides with our journey in the Land of Shadows. Like, we literally see his great rune break in real time. Now you could just say this image was from long before in the past, but Miquella's journey isn't too far off from us, so the timelines just don't add up. Yeah, I know it's on brand for FromSoft to leave us with more questions than answers, but in the end it just left a bitter taste in my mouth, you know? Because unlike Gale and Orphan of Cause, I didn't feel like the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC provided that closure we needed from Elden Ring as a series, despite how great that final fight was. We got nothing about the Godskin, nothing on the Glowmite Queen, nothing on Godwyn, practically nothing for Melina. Hell, we couldn't even interact with the Divine Gate. I guess the precedent for all this was not getting a cutscene when entering the DLC in the first place. And I don't want to continue comparing the other games to Elden Ring because, well, Elden Ring is a much more story-focused game than the others. It's not really comparable. They're not like Dark Souls and Bloodborne in that aspect. In those games, you're playing on the ruined ashes or ravaged area of that world. They are different interpretations of an apocalyptic setting. But in Elden Ring, despite the shattering, the world is very much alive. Factions are at each other's throats. There are races to godhood, ones clinging onto previous faiths. Basically, there are actual through lines in Elden Ring that are just not part of the other two. So you can't just dismiss what we were delivered by saying, oh, well, FromSoft has done this in the past, so it's okay now. No, I think it's perfectly valid to feel disappointed. I mean, you don't even have to look at the failed answers we were given to the lore. Just look at some of the NPC quest lines like Hornsense. In the beginning and middle parts of his quest, pretty good, standard stuff. Nothing crazy, but pretty good. But after beating Mesmer, he gives this whole speech about doubling down on his revenge and wanting to go after Marika next and all her bloodline. But what happens? What do we get after that? He randomly appears, invades us in the ruins of Rao, and fucking dies. No dialogue, no sounds, no nothing. Not even an explanation about his behavior. Now, I don't know about you, but this doesn't exactly scream finished product to me. In all, I want to reiterate this again because I'm aware I may be sounding a little harsh, but I still had a great time with the DLC. It just didn't feel conclusive enough for my liking. It feels like, well, it feels like this is the one in the middle of the road rather than the end. And with Miyazaki confirming outright that they have no plans for another DLC or sequel, it just leaves me begging for more, you know? Maybe it's because deep down I'm just not ready to let it go. Just think about it. Just think about it. We won't get any more Elden Ring. Nothing from its world, nothing from its lore, no additions ever again. No more answers or clarifications, no more things to discuss, no more anything. Now just ask yourself, do you feel fulfilled after this DLC? Do you feel the closure you needed? Because I certainly don't. I'm not ready to move on. I'm not ready to let go of Elden Ring. But either way, I will always be looking forward to FromSoft's next project. And with that being said, here's my review score for Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC.
That tarnished, it seemeth. Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one short bereft of life? Yet, my purpose standeth unchanged.
.5 out of 10. Shadow of the Erdtree is another amazing expansion by FromSoftware that was unfortunately set back by their own overambitiousness. failing to deliver on various aspects that the fans have been waiting for, while excelling at their trademark attractions, the world design, and bosses. Hey y'all, yeah I know, I've been away for a good minute now. Don't got a good explanation either, so yeah. But hey, I'm back now and I learned a couple things along the way, so hopefully you like this video more than the others I've done in the past. I'm also open to any feedback, so let me know. I'm also going to try and be more consistent from now on. No promises or anything, I'm not going to upload every day or something, but I'll try to put more videos out there because I do actually enjoy reviewing media a lot. It just, fucking editing takes so long, man. Holy shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. If you enjoyed it, give me a like. If you dislike the video, don't forget to dislike it. And yeah, oh yeah, subscribe for more shit like this. And yeah, that's about it. Bye.